Audio recording. Dude, I can't keep on hitting the wire. Hold on, let me move this wire out of the way. Jesus Christ. What's up with all that? Welcome to episode 15 of our hella confusing 20s. I have not podcasted in like 3 months. Ooh, how I've missed it. Ooh, how I've missed just expressing, but I've been doing a lot of learning, a lot of reading, a lot of growing during quarantine. And I hope the same for you. I hope you've been really taking... I hope you've been taking these opportunities to learn and grow, but I take it back. If you've just been like chilling and just like surviving, that's also dope. That's also, that's super necessary. We're all getting through this in the best way that we can. But the reason why I wanted to record again after a while is because I've been really appreciating my time at art school lately. And I've just been thinking on the ways that I learned, the ideas I was opened up to, about myself as well, like what I thought life was about and what I thought acting was about and different viewpoints and et cetera, discipline and beauty and believing in things that, these things matter, these things have meaning, these things have power to affect good, out in the world. And anyway, I just wanted to kind of talk about that experience for anybody who might be curious, someone who might be thinking about art school, and you're like, damn, is it worth it to go to art school? I mean, my particular experience was in a BFA 4-year acting program, which is a very specific beast in its own. So if you're considering acting school, this is especially for you. But I do feel like the experiences and lessons, that there's something that could be of use to any artist, whether you might want to study fine art, dance, filmmaking, animation. I apologize if I didn't say your art. There's so many and they're all valid and they're all great. And, there's probably programs in colleges for all of them. But yeah. And also I get so annoyed when people are like, art school, is it worth it? And then like the video is like rambling on and on and on. And then you're like, okay, they're going to say it at the end. Let me skip to the end. So let me just cut to the chase. If you don't want to, because what I'm going to do throughout the whole podcast is I'm going to really try to paint like a whole picture, from the lead into looking for an art school, getting into calarts, auditioning, the excitement, and the kind of the emotional journey, like first year, second year, third year, fourth year, how I feel about it now. And I'm thinking maybe this podcast will be like the long form version. And I think it'll help me kind of organize my thoughts and find what's really valuable that I could make like a condensed 5 or 10 minute YouTube video that's just like, art school, pros, cons, whatever, one of those stupid fucking videos, but I want to make it cool. I'm going to make it really cool, like, as only not funny guy, Jeremy, hopefully, it'll be entertaining. Anyway, oh my god, 3 minutes and 40 seconds into the video, so I'll tell you, absolutely yes. Did I get into insane amounts of debt? Oh wait, what's the question I'm answering? Absolutely yes, it's worth it, in my opinion, to go to art school. I went to CalArts, where the tuition is like over $40,000 a year. And that's not even taking into account food and living expenses, rent and where you're staying. Did I take on a crap load of debt to go to CalArts? Yes. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. The more time I spend away from art school, the more I appreciate it. Why? I'll just say real quick, like I grew in ways I did not expect to grow. I was open to so many artistic ideas that have been immensely beneficial for my life. And I got to see the work and the growth of a lot of myriad artists that I was going to school with. That was very inspiring for me, inform my own work, inform the stories that I want to tell. And I was a little afraid of, what would happen after art school, the difficulty of incorporating art in my life. And I was like, am I ready? Are these things going to stick? But I have really realized that those 4 years have profoundly changed me. And I continue to change as the ideas and the skills kind of marinate, I spend more time with them. I practice different things like voice things, movement things, acting things. Those things are constantly growing and developing in me, and just so many of the seeds were planted at acting school, and a lot of the early development. It's like you really need those. I feel like I really needed those like guardrails for those years, to help me grow as much as possible. And now I'm out here, and I just, if you're like, I want to go to art school because I feel like it's gonna guarantee me, I'm gonna be able to make a living as an artist. No, like that's not what it is. That's not what it does. It's not worth it. But the resources there is like, if your mindset is, I want to have this experience. I want to become the best artist that I can be and cultivate a mind and a heart to carry that throughout my entire life, then I would highly recommend, CalArts for sure, and I'm guessing a lot of other art schools. The time you get to just be 100% in your craft, and I guess in socialization and things like that, is absolutely invaluable. Okay, so that's the short of it, and now I'm gonna go back to the beginning. So for me, I realized I wanted to do acting. I wasn't ready to go off to college right out of high school, so I did a 2-year theater conservatory locally, which is amazing, over in Los Altos Hills, the Foothill Theater Conservatory. Unfortunately, because of state regulations, it doesn't exist as it did at the time I went there. Me and the people, a few years before me, a few years after me, we really lucked out in that we were able to have that beautiful experience. And then I realized it was certain to me. I was like, I'm gonna go to an acting school. I'm gonna get my bachelor's for acting. And so I went out on auditions and everything. And I was auditioning in San Francisco. And I remember the CalArts audition, and it was for, who ended up being my teacher later on, this man, Rafael Lopez Barantes, who is amazing. And he's a voice teacher from Spain, and he used to do all these things. Anyway, the point was like just the excitement going to like the conference room at the hotel, and then waiting, and then he's there, and then I did the monologue and just speaking to him about what I wanted in art school, and what I was hoping to get there, and my artistry. There was just this feeling where I was, I thought, if I get into this school, I'm going. There was something that clicked. And I was raised with Disney. I love Disney, so it was super cool that Walt Disney founded it and wanted the school to be like Caltech for the arts. And I was very attracted to that. And there was something so cool to me about, just reading on CalArts' website too, about just how it looked like a college version of like the movie Fame, that arts high school where, and like I went to class with kids who did go to LaGuardia. But anyway, but I just love that idea that like all the arts are intermingling. I thought I was going to go to school and there was going to be like somebody sketching on the lawn, somebody's playing saxophone, dancing on the table, and actors are like doing weird improvs, and like someone's singing in the corner. And it wasn't exactly like that, but also it kind of is like that. Like the picture they painted was awesome, and I was like, I'm gonna go. And then so the second I found out that I was accepted, I like was downstairs on the computer. I think I was still like was I using a desktop? I felt like I was sitting on the desk. Anyway, I found out. I went into the closet and I like screamed in joy. I was so excited to go to art school. I was like, yes. I like responded immediately. I'm coming to CalArts. And then I went to get my first Sally Mae loan. More on that later. But I was writing, whatchamacallit, I went to go accept the loan, and I saw it there. I forgot what I applied for the first year, like 40,000, roughly around that. And I was kind of looking at it, and I was like, wow, if I accept this loan, I'm in it. I'm not going to take a $40,000 loan and then not continue, and then like, okay, I did it 1 year and then I'm out. I knew it would rack up after the years, and I was going all the way into the debt. And I was like, yeah, there's no other choice for me. There was no other choice. It was the only way I could go to CalArts. And like, there was just no way I was not going to go to CalArts. And so I was in there. And, being at CalArts was like just for the first arrival, and then moving into the dorms and saying goodbye to my parents. And of course it was very emotional. It was this moment of like, wow, I'm taking off on this journey. I'm on my own. I'm out in the world, chasing my dreams. And it was super cool. And the intro week was wild. Just kids like drinking in the room and partying and swimming and all these orientation events to make you feel like, yeah, you're at home here. Art really matters. It was just, you could tell that you are in a transformed space where there is this mutual reverence for art and artistic expression. And throughout the years, you can come to take that for granted, for sure. I mean, 4 years, it's a long time when you're in it. But afterwards, you're like, woo, it flew by. But I mean, just that alone was so, so valuable. And then, into probably like into the first semester, it was a little too cliquey for my taste. But I think that's just how humans are. I don't think that's an art school thing, because it's like, people are afraid. People are scared to put themselves out there and take risks. So if you find somebody that's kind of comfortable, kind of familiar, kind of safe, I mean, it makes sense that, okay, this is our group. We're going to take care of each other. We're going to keep each other safe for now. So I felt, pretty alienated that first semester, but I was doing the work. But then, throughout the year, and I mean, of course, your journey is going to be your own journey. Who knows what it'll be, and it will be dependent upon, your choices and the things that happen to you. But I made a couple good friends by the end of the year, and we were working together and making things together. And then throughout, the second year, third year, fourth year, for those who don't know, when you're doing a BFA in acting, you guys, you're together in all your core classes throughout the 4 years. So, of course, you become incredibly familiar with each other. I mean, you really do. I mean, of course, there's petty stuff. People talk shit. People get jealous and they get insecure and things like that. And people sleep with people and it's awkward. And there's all this like interdating and interbreeding. Okay, no one had kids, so breeding is probably the wrong thing. It can get a bit incestual is what I'm saying. It can get a bit incestual for sure. But, by the end of it, we really were a family. And then, for the acting program too, you have your showcase. We flew to New York and then we did it in LA. And then we, people had their meetings with agents and managers. I mean, and of course it varies. Some people got great reception. Everybody wanted them. Some people didn't, hear much from anybody. I personally only heard from 2 managers. One, which was like a dope ass manager who I signed with before I left LA. And I was like, hey, I just don't think this is where I'm meant to be right now. And he's like, I totally get it. But anyway, that's something I could get into more at a different time. But yeah, it was really amazing the way the social aspect of it unfurled over time. And it's also such a cool environment. Like, you have the library there. We had like Tatum, the coffee shop, and we had like a film library, and you can just go and find the weirdest, most obscure art books and just sit there and just immerse yourself and just have no other care in the world. Go in the film library, rent like, one day I went to just go in and just to watch, what did I watch? The movie version of Streetcar Named Desire, which I had never seen, but of course I'd heard the fabled stories about Marlon Brando's performance and how it revolutionized acting. And so I rented the movie. I sat in a big comfy chair and I just like zoned out for that. It was like a Saturday afternoon. I was like living on campus at the time, and I was just so moved, and I was like, wow, I get it, how this revolutionized Western acting, and that was the performance felt dangerous, and I've never seen anything like it. And I mean, being at art school, the point of that is I think it gives you the opportunity and the space to discover so many incredible things, so many inspiring things that you might not have stumbled upon otherwise. If you were not in that environment and not open and receptive to, the things that are happening there. And like a funny thing too, I guess, with the training is like my mindset going into acting school was very much like, okay, I think I act naturally enough. I'm probably as good an actor as I'm ever going to be. So my goal in acting school wasn't really to grow as an actor. It was more so I'm going to go there, I'll practice, I'll make connections, and those connections are going to be what, help me make a living in the arts after I graduate. And I very quickly not very quickly, it actually took me too long. because we have skill work. We practice voice work, like the instrument of voice, speech work, which is just like accents and speaking in standard American, like this, just the articulatory details of performance. And we had different kinds of movement work. We had like experimental kind of movement theater. We also did yoga. We did Tai Chi, which was my personal, like, I really love Tai Chi. You only have to do it the first year, but I did it all 4 years. There's just so many things that they call the skills work, in addition to your acting studio where you work on scenes with partners and work on monologues and things like that. But the skills work is meant to get your body more refined, more in shape, more in tune to, really deliver world-class performances and get out of your own particular culture, your own particular, the time that we're living in that has casualized our body. And I didn't take it seriously for the whole first year. I was like, I don't really see the value in this. Does it really even matter? I very much think it matters a lot now, and I'm so thankful for it, and it's things I continue to work on. But the first year, I didn't. And I admitted that to my teacher. I was like, what I just said earlier, I was like, I didn't think I was going to grow. I was like, I'm as good as I'm going to be. And I'm just here to make connections. And then she just kind of like looked at me, like she was like smiling. It was like a year-end review. And she was like nodding and, with a smirk on her face. And she was like, thank you for admitting that to me. And I'm happy to see that, you're finally coming around. And it was kind of with the subtext of, okay, it took way too fucking long for you to come around. But at least you've come around, and there you go. But I mean, it was just the experience of being able to do like the classes I mentioned, and like you do like Alexander technique, and there's classes that are like foundation, like you do it roughly every semester, like voice and speech you do every semester. And there's things that switch out, like you'll do 1 semester of Alexander technique, you'll do 1 semester of this kind of movement. The final year, you can do either 1 or 2 semesters of voiceover. Well, you technically can get into voiceover earlier. Like, there's just such a variety. Screenwriting classes, directing classes, film classes. There's, like, the animation. Like, it's such a cool... I don't know if all art schools are like this. But CalArts is in the sense that, like, all of the arts are kind of in one building. And you can take classes to explore a different medium. Like if you want to take dance classes, African dance classes, you want to take drum classes, you want to take a life portrait class, drawing class. If you show initiative and if you try to get into the class and do these things, like you can have a really unique, varied experience. Like me, for example, for a year and a half, while I was actually probably 2 years total, I was in screenwriting classes, and the first semester was screenwriting in the theater school, taught by one of the faculty there. But after that, I was able to get in a class in like the film directing master's program, and there was a screenwriting class there, and like I was in there for 3 semesters, and just working with the film students there and reading their scripts in class, and they read my scripts in class, and I learned so much, and it was so cool to be kind of, between both worlds, like, with the film directors, with like the people working on scripts and screenplays and really passionate about film directing versus being in a theater school with all the actors and all the things that we think about and worry about. And it was always so funny too. The actors are so boisterous and crazy and wild, and the writers were a lot more austere and a lot, but I don't think it was any kind of pretense. It was more, I think, just a shyness, more of a reticence to put yourself out there. But that experience of like being able to like, wow, you have 4 years to get into all these kinds of classes. It was incredible. Like I did like beat making on Ableton for a semester. I did other kinds of like digital art stuff. I dabbled in, I didn't go all the way to get the minor because like there were a few more classes to actually get the minor in it where it started getting too deep. And I was like, okay, no, I don't want to do that stuff. Like, it was like machine learning and shit. I think that it's fucking saying that out loud. It sounds so cool now. I'm like, damn, I should have done it. But I didn't have like the mental space for it at the moment, at that where I was in time. I did do a little bit of coding, and I also just don't have as cool as coding is, I don't have the patience for it. I'd rather just be doing other stuff. But anyway, yeah. But it makes me realize I did have such a shallow view of what I thought it was to be an artist. Like, my goal was just to be a working, believable actor. That was the pinnacle. I was like, just be really, really believable, really, really natural. And that's, then you're good. And nowadays, I want so much more than that. To be able to act naturally and believably is cool, is something I love and respect and will always develop and make sure I'm always going deeper in that regard. But I have a much more developed sense of creating stories and of wanting to tell stories and what it is that stories are meant to do, and the human emotion aspects, and what the structures are and what the influences are throughout the past few hundred years, what the trends have been, how to produce different effects, whether it's like screenwriting things, shooting, actual filming parts. It's just so my view of art is so much more comprehensive, and I think much more about the purpose and what it is that I want to say, and what it is that I think needs saying, and what has been said. And man, I guess trying to explain the way my what I achieve, what I view to be the pinnacle of kind of artistic potential, even trying to explain how that's evolved for me, I realize it's just so huge. It's just so, but it's beautiful because it's not huge in an intimidating way. It's huge in a way of like, wow, look at the power of art, and there are so many of us artists in this thing together, making work with each other, being inspired by other people's work. And it's just like, it's such a beautiful world that just focuses on what it is to be alive, what it is to be human, what we might be. What are the things we strive for? What are the ways to be more loving, more empathetic, more caring, and improve the experience that we have while we're here? And how can we do that through mediums, through emotional mediums? But yeah, oh my gosh, it's just the reflection and the learning that I got over those 4 years, I wouldn't trade for anything in the world, and I did take, the thing is too, is like, they talk about this a lot. They try to get this in your head that you're there to take risks. You're not necessarily there to, oh, I'm so good, everything I do is perfect and amazing, and I knock it out of the park. I wish I had really felt that intrinsically sooner, because I feel like a lot of us, we have this thing like, I want people to think I'm good. I want to prove myself. I want to show that I know what I'm doing. And really, that held me back. That held me back a lot from taking risks, because now I realize, like, wow, I knew nothing. But at the same time, I did know a lot. That's the thing. It's like, you're always, it's important to have that balance of feeling good where you're at, but also admitting that there are things you need to work on, and detaching the idea that there are things you need to work on from your sense of self-worth. Because I was kind of like, if I need to work on things, then I suck. If I'm not doing awesome performances right now, then that means I'm shit right now. And that's really not what it is. It's just the more specific you get, and the more refined your specific skills become, you become better and better and better. Like if you're in art school, chances are, more than likely, you're already good. You're already talented, right? You have that kind of spark there, that passion, where you're a worthwhile person. Yeah, you're a worthwhile person already, even without the art, right? That's like I think that's the most important thing. If you really can cultivate that sense as you get into art school, that all of the things you're about to embark on and put out there and risk and have criticized and learned from, and your triumphs, to detach it from your sense of worth as a person. Because if you realize the truth that you have value as a person, and no matter what you do, no matter what ways you fail or embarrass yourself, that isn't diminished at all, then you're going to have the confidence to try crazy things, to take risks, and to fail quickly. Because when you fail quickly, it's just you're getting a ton of information, right? You're like, okay, I tried this didn't work. I was trying to do this is how I tried to do this, and it didn't work. Let me try something else to have the same effect. And eventually you figure out what works, and what creates what effects, and what creates what kind of emotional response, and what is received by others in this way. And of course, things can be very subjective, and one thing can be interpreted a multitude of ways. But regardless, you're learning a lot about how people see things, about how you see things, and about the bridge. This is what I think is one of the most key things. The bridge between your intentions and the outcome. Because we all have a very specific taste. We know things that we like. Otherwise, we wouldn't be trying to be artists, right? There are certain things, artistic sensibilities that really move you. And so then you get in there and you try to create those things. And oftentimes early on, and sometimes even way, way later on, you realize your skills or your resources are insufficient to bring what is in your head into reality. And a lot of people have talked about this, like even Steve Aoki talked about it when he goes to make a song. He's happy if the song that, is produced is even like 50, 60% of what he initially envisioned in his mind. And so I think that's a big part of failure and of taking risks and of not being afraid to look bad or to look dumb or look ignorant. You're learning the ways that, you have shortcomings in the skill set to go from idea to reality. And you're able to work on the skills that make the process better and better. So let's say, when you first come to art school, what you're making is 10% of what you intended. And then hopefully, the second year, it's 20%, 30%, 40%. And it's just kind of climbing. But yeah, I mean, just through practice and, through making things that you're not proud of, even though, okay, that's the thing is like, you're always trying your hardest. Like, I really want to be proud of this. I'm really passionate about this. This is the thing. You need to have that belief about the project. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. But then once it's done, then you can look at it and be like, oh, wow, okay, well, this is what I made. And then it just forces you to go back and be like, okay, well, what could I have done to make something closer to what I intended? And that information is going to go into the next thing you make. And it's just like a positive feedback loop of growth. And so, and I did take some risks, like I made some bad short films that did get better. Throughout the years. And I made dumb things and I did like a one-man show and all these things that, were successes in certain ways. And, I guess kind of failures in other ways. And like in that, like the first thing I made was so long and I didn't really know what I was trying to do and structure and coherency and conciseness, all these kinds of crazy things. But I wish I had failed a lot more, because the growth that I went through between the beginning of my first year and the end of my fourth year was immense. And I think, wow, what if I had worked that hard, like the time, like the stuff that I had done in that fourth year? What if I had done all that in the first year? Or what if I had done like half of it? Like, could I have grown twice as much, 4 times as much, 8 times as much? Who knows? But I also do believe that, we're kind of ready for what we're ready for at the time. And so I didn't have the best discipline with the skills work and for working hard, and I was entitled. And I was like, if I'm good, this should be of a certain caliber with a certain amount of work. Like, I was afraid to really spend too much time on things, as much time as they needed, because I was afraid of putting so much effort, so much time, and somehow it's still bad. And I have to really face that and say, wow, you poured your heart and soul into this and you did everything you could and it sucks. And that fear kept me from going as hard as I could have in a lot of instances. And also, I guess part of me was afraid of, like, I didn't want to mess up like the intuitive aspects of it, and I didn't want it to feel so forced and crafted and created. But there is a balance, and I think I was far on the lower side of it, and yeah, but I went through that, and finally I'm in a place where I'm ready to put in the hours. And like, if I'm looking at a cut and it's not, the acting is not where I want it to be, or the script isn't where I want it to be, and I know that, and I feel that, I can't lie to myself. I have to go back in there and make it the best that I can. And that's very different than looking at a project and saying, you know what? I'm proud of this. This is the best that I am capable of doing right now, and this is what I was trying to do, and I stand by it. And then if other people don't like it, who cares? Right? Because internally you know that you did everything you could, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And that's what I was not doing for a lot of those 4 years. I wasn't doing everything that I could. And so, and I was cheating myself. But at the same time, right? I don't want to say I regret that, because I kind of had to do that so I could be where I am now. And, do I think, wow, what could have happened if I was different then? Sure. But we're all doing the best we can at the time with the information we have, with the experiences we have, with the past that we have. And that's super important to realize, So I think it's also important, like, to be easy on yourself too. Like, you don't want to when you're in art school, you don't want to pressure yourself to death. Like, I'm not getting as much as I could be out of this, blah, 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 blah. You need space and time and breath and experience to just, to keep growing, and for lessons to make themselves apparent, and for all that good stuff. And I mentioned that, I went in thinking, oh, I'm just going to be there to make connections. And that's what I'm, all about. While that's not the only thing that matters, it did happen. Like, the people that I met are extraordinary. Like, I was in a class with James Franco, which was actually pretty disappointing. It's not like we have like a relationship or anything. Like, there were a bunch of us that took the class, but that experience was valuable because it opened my eyes, and I'm guessing the eyes of other people, to the realities of fame. Because I was kind of so swept, like, when I went into CalArts, I was so caught up in the idea of fame, right? And it's like, wow, fame. Oh my God, James Franco is co-teaching a class. I got to get in that class. And then to be there, it was like his energy was so low, and he just kind of sat there, and he was kind of weird. And one time during a class break, I was like walking behind him, and he was sitting on the couch, and like he was just like looking at like a picture some girl sent him in wearing a bikini. And I was like, this is weird. Like, he's kind of a strange guy and a creep. And it really made me realize, like, oh wow, fame isn't all it's cracked up to be. And that's an important lesson, to learn when you're that young. But I mean, I got to see like Matt Weiner, who I think he worked in The Sopranos, but he like created Mad Men. He did a talk. I met Ewan McGregor, and he did a talk about his movies. Like, the film directing program had awesome guests. I saw Oppenheimer. I think I forget his name, Oppenheimer, but he made the documentary The Killing Fields. I think he won an Oscar for. I saw him talk. I got to see the directing team who originally was doing Solo, but they made like the Lego movie and things like that, and like the Jump Street movies. I got to see them talk. Phil Lord and Chris Miller. The people behind Leica. Just so many amazing guest artists. I met Shia LaBeouf and talked to Shia LaBeouf, and he came and like talked and did an art event. But you're really exposed to artistry at the highest level, both in terms of like the actual value of the artistic expression. Like, there are amazing teachers that you're gonna have who really open up your mind and change your perspective on things. But also, I mean, the highest level of being in the public eye as well. Things that are so well seen, things that, the world is, people who make art that the world is talking about, right? That are in the kind of pop culture sphere, in the awards circuits, things like that. And you kind of see all of that stuff coalesce. At least at CalArts I did. I saw it was all kind of bundled together. Like, I'd see really, really experimental stuff, really, really mainstream stuff, and just the way people thought about all of them, and the intersection of them, and what they were after, what they were trying to do. Yeah, that was incredible. And of course, just the community too. Like, we'd have gallery nights every Thursday. Sometimes it was poppin', sometimes it wasn't, but there'd be a bunch of like students having their art up. They'd have gallery spaces where they'd put, they'd be working on stuff for the semester or the year. And so you saw so many paintings, installations, sculptures, video installations, live performances. Saw lots of kooky theater, was a part of kooky experimental theater that was really cool. Like vocal performances, just so much going on, so much culture and and art, and we filmed a bunch of stuff on campus, just so much, like, just the fact that there was like generation happening all the time. And of course it's art kids, so there's like wild parties, like the Halloween party is the craziest part of the year, crazy costumes, and just like people just live just the hedonistic excess. Which can come with a dark side too. Like, there were some shady fuckers that were around on school. There was a kid who apparently like brought a gun to school that I only heard about. I never like saw it, but just to know that happened is like crazy. Like, people do wild shit for sure. But I mean, the whole spirit of the place was just so generative, just so collaborative, just so open, just so free. And the mentors I had too were, and that's another big reason to do it, is for the mentors that you have. Like, for example, like the James Franco class, the co-teacher of that is Deborah Levine, and she is an incredible director, and would just think, like, I took other classes of hers, and the way she'll break down a scene and the way she'll talk about characters and the world was just so brilliant. And it was from all this work, she prized the work and working hard and not being entitled and not thinking things are going to come to you. And I was doing a production of hers with like the directing students, and I was kind of being a kind of piece of shit at the time, responsibility wise. Like, it was the last year of school. I was like coming late. I wasn't giving, really the proper respect to the class. And she told me, she was like, Jeremy, you got a great type. You're too talented an actor and too, like likable a person. Like, you'll have a great career if you don't sabotage it with your unprofessionalism. And just to hear her say that, really, it's stuck with me to this day. The fact that she, like, okay, you should believe in yourself first and foremost. What other people say to you, ideally, you want to be in a place where it doesn't affect you too much positively or negatively, where either way, you're doing the work you got to do, you're kicking goals. But that's not how we work, most of us. And it feels really good to hear that validation, that confirmation, especially from a mentor, especially from someone you respect. And so for her to tell me that, it was like, wow, I owe it to myself to be responsible and to be on time and to work hard. Because think of the things that I can achieve if I do that versus what will happen if I shoot myself in the foot and I don't do that. And I had a great mentor, Dwight, who was a speech teacher who went to Yale. And throughout the years, I got closer to him, and I should email Dwight, actually. I think about Dwight still. And I even did like a kind of private speech thing with him where I was still working on monologues and a General American and Shakespeare in my final semester. And it was so funny because he saw me play Hamlet in a scene in my second year. But I think he also saw my proclivity toward comedy and sitcom-y kind of stuff, silly stuff. And in my last meeting with him, I remember he told me, he was like, Jeremy, it's like, I want you to know that you could very much have a wonderful career as a dramatic actor if you wanted to. And I was like, wow, Dwight, it was really something. It was really nice of him to say that. He didn't have to say that. But yeah, so many cool mentors. Just people, and like Sherry, who taught Tai Chi. And like she also taught Tai Chi to like Ed Harris and Don Cheadle. And she still talks to Don, like she has a relationship with him still, and just to kind of talk to her and get her perspective. Like, she's so wise and she sees through bullshit. And just, she's seen a lot of people succeed. She's seen a lot of people fail, and she knows what the difference is. And she knows what's good versus what's just, fleeting and fame and success. And a lot of the stuff she said really grounded me, really gave me perspective. I miss Sherry too. I miss doing Tai Chi with Sherry. Jeez. You never know the mentors you're going to find. If you're just willing to reach out too. It's like, I was like, hey, like, can I have lunch and like kind of ask you some questions, talk about this? Meetings that wouldn't have happened otherwise. But it's like, of course you want to feel a genuine kind of rapport with them, a genuine kind of relationship. You don't just want to meet with them just because, but there are people that feel more like, because obviously you're all the same tribe, you're all artists, but there are certain artists there that feel more of your particular tribe than others, and people who maybe speak your language a little bit more, and it's great to converse with them and see what's going on. Oh, and also there were super dope experiences. Like I took a film production class with this woman, Janice Tanaka, who's also, I fucking loved, Janice was so dope. So after when the class was over, we all met in like, where did we even meet? Oh my God, was it down in like toward the OC? Like Westminster? It was like in like an Asian area. But like, we fucking drove and she like fucking treated the whole class to dim sum. Dude. Damn, Janice was dope. Anyway. Such an old, she was like my grandma. Oh my God, I remember one time she told me to in class, she was like looking at me, she was like, I think you're gonna make it. And I was like, what? She's like, I just have a sense. I can just I can see the ones who I was like, you're gonna make it. And I was like, it's very kind of you, Janice. I'll say right now too, like if you're watching this too, I also think it's so important, the idea of making it, fucking get rid of that toxic shit in your head. Who cares about fame? Who cares about accolades? I mean, that's human nature. But, you know, I've been reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I've been reading New Thoughts for Actors by Jack Plotnick. You know, shout out Max Udell and Ariane Kassam for freaking getting me on that shit. I've been reading the Art of Acting by Stella Adler, and just the reverence for the craft. Your art is all that should matter, right? Just, how can I be good? How can I do things that are meaningful? And that's like an internal sense. And if you ever get validation for that, money, rewards, it's all vanity. It's nice if it comes, you know? It's nice if it comes. But, you know, I don't need that anymore. Like, literally, I'd be happy to just make, well, not just like videos like this, but it's like, look, if no one ever watched this, no one ever listened to this podcast, but I'm getting to just make artistic shit, that's even better, I think. You know, like if I have the opportunity to be creative without the pressures of scrutiny and worrying about finances and worrying, do these people like me? Am I famous enough to get in this role and that role? And, you know, blah, blah, blah. The things that can totally just destroy your mindset. But anyway, and Janice, like, she was friends with, like, a big dude at CAA. I forgot his name. But it was dope because, I mean, for those who don't know, CAA is the #1 agency in the world. I mean, they have, like, all the best, like, you know, acting and music and, you know, directing talent. And when we went to the boardroom to, you know, hear the bigwig kind of talk to us, and he worked his way from the mailroom, you know, it was a talk basically about persistence and about believing in yourself and just don't give up and just do whatever it takes. And it takes a long time, and it takes, you know, being a willingness and a work ethic. But he was involved with like Atlanta at the time. He's like, yeah, Atlanta's been doing really well. Emmy nominations on like another show that was super popular at the time. And it was insane to be in the room with that guy in this fucking office at you know, way up in CAA, and just see LA sprawling outside the window. I was at the fucking boardroom with my classmates, and they're fucking free La Croix and coffee and shit. You know, I was drinking that. Just the experiences are so dope. I did like a Hive incubator where me and my buds Matt and Kevin, you know, Try House Films, we got to workshop kind of like VR live action content, because we like did like a Shark Tank style pitch, and they gave us money. They gave us several $1,000s to get equipment and even for ourselves. And Eric Darnell, who he is the creative chair of Baobab VR Entertainment, but he used to work at DreamWorks and has worked on like Shrek 2 and you know, like a bunch of more movies like Puss in Boots and other Shreks and stuff. And just, you know, talking to him, like web chatting with him about our ideas and the way he approaches story. And it's just the fucking experiences and the opportunities that I had there was just, the more I think about it, the more I was like, that was fucking awesome. And I'd love to, you know, cultivate my artistry. I mean, I will always make art. I will continue to cultivate my artistry. And I'd love to give back too. I'm sitting here, I fucking haven't even like made anything, done anything of worth. And I'm like, I'd love to fucking give back. But that'd be super cool to be in a mentor position eventually, like in like 20 years, 30 years. I just think it's cool to just keep that cycle going of just telling stories and of just making things, and you know, that is beautiful. And And also, too, like, the showcase was so fun. I don't think I emphasize enough, like, how fun the showcase was. Like, flying to fucking New York City, to flying to fucking Manhattan with the homies that you've been in class with. And look, here's the thing. I'm more misanthropic than a lot of people. I wasn't close to, like, everybody, right? Like, I was, like, pretty close to a few people. But I was friendly with everybody. And I like my whole class. You know, well, okay, hold on. Most of my you know, to be in New York together and to be in like this kind of small Manhattan theater and just be rehearsing and then to do the thing and then you have the people and then to just be walking in like the cold streets of Manhattan with your classmates and you're all fucking bundled up and you're just having a good time. You're just fucking having a dope time, like experiencing things together, you know. Fucking going to Cat's Deli, fucking smoking J's and eating cookies. I fucking watched Phantom of the Opera, high out of my mind. I had like a 60 milligram cookie. And then I fucking went up to, I was in the nosebleeds of Phantom of the Opera. And I was like looking down, I was like, holy fuck, this is so high. This is so steep. And then I watched Phantom of the Opera and I was like, holy fuck, musical theater is so weird. I love musical theater. It's the weirdest fucking thing. And I was like, I see exactly what this is. You know, the guys singing and moving and the theatricality of it. It's just Phantom of the Opera. I mean, I know there's a movie. It's a crazy movie, yeah. But it's like, but the story is so catered to musical theater and it's like strangeness and the set pieces and the way they did it, and it blew my mind. And I'm going on a tangent about Phantom of the Opera. Oh my god! And we saw Lobby Hero, which had fucking Brian Tyree. Oh my god, what's his full name? The Paperboy in Atlanta. Brian Tyree. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, dude. You're a great actor. And then Chris Evans, and then a local actress from New York, and then fucking Michael Cera. And Michael Cera was phenomenal to watch live. They were all great. But Michael Cera, watching him live, I was like, holy, this is the fucking masterclass. Just so present. Just so alive throughout his whole body. Just the whole, every single second on stage, just the detail. He was just so in it. So he didn't seem self-conscious at all. He just seemed like that vessel of just letting it flow. Anyway, to be able to experience those things and to just be able to have like a fucking fun time, and then the mixer after with like agents and managers, and then like, you know, some of the meetings we had while we were there. And I mean, I remember I had one meeting for this guy. Like, he seemed like so uninterested in me, like so. But I mean, he liked me enough to call the meeting, and then like just ended with like, you know, let me know if you're ever in New York. And like when I came into like this, I was like I had to go up an elevator, and it was a small office, and I went in, and it was so crowded with like, you know, playbills and movie posters and all these things around the wall, and it was just him and another girl in the office, and like one of their clients was going to be on like Fallon that night, and they were like organizing. It just felt so exciting to be in the thick of it. And then a bunch of us got called to audition for Hamilton, and then so just going up to the Telsey and Co casting offices, and like none of us got callbacks for it because like none of us, well, a couple of people were really singers, but for the most part, you know, like they were like, it was just a fun experience to just sing Hamilton for the casting directors. And I wouldn't have had that experience without going to acting, without going to art school. And then graduation was a fucking ball. I don't know how other art schools do it, but CalArts, like, you can play like 7 seconds of any music you want, and you can have any kind of costume. Like, you can be so theatrical. And so what I did, and I had this idea since like I got to CalArts and I found out this was a thing. I like had an outfit inspired by Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid of WWE, and his theme song played. It's like, oh, I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. And I freaking had my brother there, shirtless, and he was dazed, and I did sweet chin music to his face, and I pinned him, and I had my freaking great bud Carlo come up and fucking do the countdown, and then I got my whatever. They didn't actually have the diploma. I mean, the diplomas, the degrees for us, but they had like a case. It was so much fun. Fuck, man. It was a fucking ball. Yeah. And just the more time I spend, like I said at the top of this, right? The more time I spend out of school, the more I appreciate the insanity, the fun, the insecurity, the failures, the successes, the growth that those 4 years gave me, that I'll continue to carry with me, that I'll continue to grow from, that I'll continue to build on. And I'm going to have so many more great experiences, so many more artistic experiences. But I mean, those 4 years were just so invaluable as an artist. And, is my debt, over like $160,000? Yes, it is. But do I think that, do I wish that I hadn't gone to art school so I wasn't in all that debt? No. That experience is priceless to me. I would take on more than that debt, I would take on even more debt. You know why? Because I'm not going to pay that shit. Yeah, it was just incredible. It was just absolutely incredible. So my advice is I think definitely go. If you have the chance to go to art school, go. Throw yourself into it fully. Savor the experience while you're there. Try everything. And just cherish it. And don't cling to it. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do once this is done? Once this is over? Oh, I'm going to miss it so much. Don't be like that, because then you might not enjoy it. But just enjoy it. I'm so grateful for this while it's happening. I'm going to make the most of it. And I'm going to carry it with me forever. And that's the thing right there. And also something I forgot to mention is when I was kind of talking about not taking enough risks. This is very acute for actors because you're vulnerable up there. It's just you, it's your body, it's your instrument. But I think it applies to all artists. But I also held myself back because I didn't want to look dumb in front of my other acting classmates. I didn't want them to see me and be like, wow, Jeremy sucks. That was so bad. That was so unbelievable. That didn't make sense. That was a weird choice. That was etc., etc., etc. And so while I did take certain chances, a lot of my time in class, during exercises, during performances, was very restrained, very self-conscious. And I think, wow, if I had not given a fuck what anyone thought, I would have been so free to just let things move through me and to go for things. And who knows how I might have grown, if I would have grown in different ways, if I would have grown quicker. And I'm glad I'm free of that self-consciousness now, where I can just fucking let it rip like Beyblade, But that would be a piece of advice I would say is as difficult, it might be the most difficult thing actually for an artist. It's so hard. But to release ego and to release the ideas that you think other people might have of you. And be like, hey, I might go up there and eat shit and they'll think, oh, Jeremy, that was such a bad performance. Jeremy's such a bad actor. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Because, we all can do that. We can go up today and give an amazing performance. We can go up tomorrow and give a shit performance. It's possible. It happens. It's weird. It's one of those things. But you're not going to be growing as much. You're not going to be as excited if you're not really putting yourself out there in a vulnerable way, right? If you're not prepared to be vulnerable, you can't really be an artist. Right? Because it has to be about the things that we're really going through, really experiencing. And you need to be vulnerable to be able to open up in that way and to share those things. And so, yeah. So that's my advice. Go there and let your freak flag fly and let your wings fly. And, and thanks for listening to this podcast. Well, I could also talk about the finances because I figured that might be helpful for people. It's what's going on with the financial situation. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to end it here, but then I'm going to keep recording, and then I'm going to just cut off the financial part and just make it a separate addendum. Okay. So, yeah, so hey, thank you so much for tuning into this, the 15th episode of our Hella Confusing 20s, which is basically about if I could do art school again, and, is art school worth it? And so there you have my verdict is a resounding yes, hell yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Yeah, I'm not funny guy on all the socials. I'm working on like a web series, right? But that's not gonna come out till next year. I don't even gotta fucking talk about that. I hope this has been useful for you. If you were considering art school, the possibility of going, if it's clarified anything about what the experience is like, you know. I mean, it could also be useful for people who gone or interesting, I guess, for people who went to art school, and just to compare their experience to my experience and see what the parallels might be, what the differences might be. But yeah, so many people complain about calarts and the faculty and all these things, and it's so easy to find shit to complain about. But when you're there, if you're there, unless you really hate it so much you want to leave and go to a different school, that's one thing. But if you kind of know, like, hey, I'm gonna do the full 4 years here, might as well find as many things to be grateful for as possible, as many things to appreciate as possible, and just fucking let it rock. Because that's what, I think it's human nature, but of course it happens at art school. People are so good at finding shit to complain about, finding ways to dismiss things, discount things, not take things seriously, not contend with things in a respectful manner. And really, I think a lot of it is an excuse to just not work and to not, you know, put yourself out there. But I would caution against being that kind of person. Did I fall into shit like that? Absolutely. You know, there's times where I totally fell into that shit. But as much as you can keep yourself out of that muck, you know, you'll really, I think, benefit a lot more. Okay, so I'm going to call this one here. I'm really trying to think, is there anything to promote? Nah, what the fuck, because I'm going to fucking December. I'm like writing shit, whatever. I'm always doing a bunch of shit. Hopefully you're always doing a bunch of shit. Thanks for listening. Episode 15. I'm about to go do the addendum, talking about the finances and my financial school situation. I'll just be really open about it, and I'll put them out at the same time. So if you're curious about that, check it out.